What is the quickest way you've seen a friend duck up their life? He fell madly in love with a girl and would do anything she asked. She told him he should go rob a store so she could have some cash. So went into a dry cleaners with a hairbrush under a towel. Saw it looked like he had a gun. He was caught and served 7 years in the state prison. It was his first time ever getting in trouble with the law. I wanted to say it was his first brush with the law, but that's not even funny in this case. Once he was released from prison, he was unable to get a job and eventually drank himself to death. He decided that helmet no longer was cool enough to warrant use. For the last 15 years he has been in an assisted living home after sustaining brain damage from cracking his skull open on the pavement. Knew a dude in uni. He was top of ever class. Really nice dude and on track to be an insanely successful doctor. He had a girlfriend who was an honest to God model. His girlfriend got into sugar because apparently it's fairly common for models. She offered him some one day and the last I heard he was working in a fish market and in and out of rehab and AA. Still with the same girl though, so that's nice. A friend of mine soundproofed his basement recording studio with some non-compliant foam he found in a dumpster. Ended up knocking over an ashtray or something, lighting this foam up in an instant. Much of the house burned down and he received some pretty bad burns trying, unsuccessfully, to put the fire out. Not taking bipolar meds. Happened to a family member. Decided one day he was fine and didn't need them. Within a month he had warrants out for his arrest and a lot of legal issues. Not a close friend but a guy I used to work with. He was driving around drunk during the day. He ran a red light and T-boned a van with a family in it. A toddler was in the car, not in a car seat, and she died. He was convicted of vehicular manslaughter and as far as I know is still in prison. Knew a kid who was hanging out with his friends in his dad's study. He pulled out his dad's handgun from a hiding spot and was playing around pointing it at things and acting cool. His friends told him to knock it off and quit being stupid. To show them that he knew what he was doing and it was safe, he took out the magazine, put the gun to the roof of his mouth, and pulled the trigger, only he forgot to empty the chamber and blew the back of his head off in front of his friends. The saddest part of all of it was watching the aftermath as his friends, who watched it happen, and his family, who blamed his father, destroyed themselves trying to cope with what his stupidity brought about. Friend had a kid early on, but it seemed to be going okay. Boyfriend was a loser. She dumps him and starts dating a meth head. She has 2 kids with the meth head. He's tried to kill her, and she dropped the charges and still sees him. CPS is probably going to take away her kids. 20-year-old girl, living with her parents, making $12 an hour 30 hours a week, going to community college, used parents' car to get around. What she did, decided to move into a trailer park to be able to live with her boyfriend, who doesn't work or go to school. Quit her job because the commute would have been too far. Had to quit school for financial reasons. Lost her car because her parents shared that car. So now she borrows money from parents to pay for bills. Has no car, no job, no school. She's been out of her parents' place for 2 months and hates life. Everyone except the boyfriend's parents told her this was a bad idea and the reasons why it was a bad idea. She is facing reality now. My friend has been addicted to Reddit for 5 months now and haven't spoken since. The real silent killer. A guy I knew in college was dragging his feet about breaking up with a girl. He went over to her house to finally end their toxic relationship, but ended up sleeping with her again instead, and, naturally, she got pregnant. He killed his bully in middle school. He was always taunted, insulted, assaulted both physically and mentally, mugged on a daily basis, and nearly had his neck broken. The school wouldn't do it to the degenerates. The school wasn't in a bad part of town but it had some really itty pricks. One day the D-measuring king decides that that day would be the day he would try and ruin my friend's day for good by trying to break his knees with a bat. As my friend goes up to bat he gets ready to hit ball. The pitcher, not affiliated with the group of thugs, throws it too far in and forces my friend to duck, which saved his head from both the ball and the bat the guy swung from behind. My friend noticed this, turns around and pulls an MLB swing that connected with the guy's skull, completely shattering it. He dropped dead where he stood. Suddenly the coaches tackle my friend to the ground and call the police. My friend was arrested and charged for murder. To this day I don't know if he's alive or dead, but all I know is that if the joke of a school system would have done something, that he wouldn't have had to stand up for himself. It's complete bullet that the very people who preach about how they support anti-bully measures are the same who stands by and do nothing until something tragic happens. Gary was a nice guy who would help anyone in need. Hell, this guy even helped carry me to the nurse when my own group of thugs blinded me with sand and dirt when they tripped me. Duck the school system and duck the people who act like he's the criminal when he had to deal with 4 years of torture. My friend didn't like his foster home, so he ran away to a creek a lot of hobos and druggies live at. He was only about 17 or 18, but last time I saw him he lost about 30 pounds and was a complete meth head. He had a bad temper. He quit a really good commission sales job because they weren't going to give out more vacation time. He then took a $7.50 an hour job at a pizza place. He ended up losing his house. Not a friend but myself. I went from a straight A student to a cokehead within a month. Barely passed my senior year. I've been clean since December and plan on keeping it that way. I got a great job and am currently pursuing my childhood dream. It's going great. One of my best girlfriends stopped seeing her therapist and taking her medication for anxiety and panic attacks. Ignored all of our attempts to tell her she needed to remain in treatment. Went out clubbing 3-4 times a week to avoid thinking about her problems. Spent too much money. Then exacerbated her anxiety when she couldn't pay her bills. She would then go out to forget about the fact that she couldn't pay her bills. And the circle began again. She failed out the last quarter of 4 years at university. She literally just had to get through that quarter to get her degree. Didn't do it. She's doing okay now. But to advance in her career, she would need a master's degree. And that's just not gonna happen. Engage in conversation with an Amway rep. Within a week he was at a retreat in Maine. Buddy of mine got into a mutual bar fight. Knocked the guy down. Hit his head on the concrete. He spent the next several years in court over the issue and got a criminal record. Other guy is alive, but a much lower quality of life. 2 lives effectively ruined. In high school we went streaking, and one of my friends happened to be 18. We got caught by the police and now he is on the 6 offenders list. That was 6 years ago. Edit. Not the policy but the police. Accidentally shouting duck in a GCSE exam. Getting him a 5-year exam ban. Not sure I would call him a friend, but the summer after we graduated a kid I went to school with got arrested for taking underskirt pictures of an 11-year-old girl in public. She got pregnant with a guy she just met. They got married, moved to Japan all within 3 months. They're now getting a divorce after having a save the marriage baby, and it's been an extremely rocky relationship the whole time. She's always been the type to get bored really quickly, especially with relationships, and she had previously said she never wanted kids or to get married, and to go from that to knocked up and married and moving out of the country so quickly was crazy. When she left she took her kids away from him. He is a great dad and was a decent husband, and moved from Virginia to Pennsylvania to Hawaii each time to get a new start. Hope it all works out for her, but it drives me crazy. Opiates. Vicodin turned into Roxy's, which turned into a panel, which turned into heroin. An overdose hasn't stopped him. I'm not sure what will. Didn't want to use Uber. Drove home drunk. Dead. Me and 2 other guys were a close-knit group. We did everything together and saw each other every day. Was like this for years. Unfortunately drugs came along and we started to not get along so well with friend A. Friend A was always an idiot but slowly became an even bigger idiot. Me and friend B moved away from him and his drug usage. Anyways, friend A decided to rob my cabin and steal all my guns and electronics. He then calls friend B to try and sell him all of my stolen guns and electronics. Friend B calls me. We then call the police and they set up a sting operation telling friend B to accept buying the stolen goods. So they set him up and arrest him. And now he lives an in and out of jail kind of life with terrible addiction. Friend A is an idiot. Friend of mine spent his entire childhood playing in the minor hockey leagues. He got so good he was nearly at the top of the league by the time he was in high school. Then his mom died of cancer and he started drinking. All his teammates went on to play in the NHL. And he's working as a roofer. It's sad watching hockey with him. And he's like, I used to play with that guy in AAA. His mom's dream was to see him go all the way to the top. I was dating the valedictorian in high school. She wanted to be an astronaut. She had won the National Science Fair for a project to terraform Mars. She was accepted to the Air Force Academy to train to be a pilot scientist so she would be fast-tracked to the astronaut cadet program. The girl was brilliant. 6 months before graduation in senior year she went to a party and took some bad XTC and went into a coma for a few weeks. Came out different. She just lost all her drive and basically stopped going to class or doing any work. She failed her last semester and dropped out. She cut everyone off and went into seclusion. That's the last I heard of her. In high school, at a party, MR, USA student athlete, every school has one. He was the most popular kid in school. At a little gathering one night he had a couple beers and went to dive into a pool. Shallow end. Broke his neck. Now he is about as mobile as Stephen Hawking's. Heroin. Pro tip, don't do heroin. Joining a gang. Ever since he's been constantly getting arrested and in and out of jail. Took his life. He was a musician. Started doing electronic music and got very popular very fast. Signed a record contract but confided that he never really cared for the music. It's just what he did because people praised him for it. He was always depressed and would often mention suicide. But we'd always talk to him about it as a group and one day he just did it. He was in his mid-20s. His choice was to take a bedsheet and hang himself in his bathroom, which his girlfriend had to wake up and discover. It made me wake up to my own thoughts of suicide and depression. I decided one day to swallow my ego and go to the doctors. First pill I was prescribed changed my life. It may seem like there's no way out, but there is always help. Even if you have nobody, there is help. He had all the friends in the world and felt alone. I was depressed my entire ducking life and finally got off my ass and tried antidepressants and it was honestly the best choice I've ever made. I signed up for the cheapest health insurance I could get. Went to the first doctor I was assigned and tried the first pill prescribed and it worked. It may take you more attempts than that. But is it worth it to feel happy? To feel free? To feel light and loosened yourself? Yes it is. With my insurance I get meds for $20 a month. That's dirt ducking cheap for mental health. Look into it if you feel suicidal. It won't solve your problems, but it will prevent you from going down the spiral of depression and will allow you to seek the help you need. Do it for you. Less than 3. R.I.P. James. Myself. Avoid drugs if you are easily addicted to anything. If that's not an option, set strict rules for yourself and abide by them. It's insane how easily you can justify going completely out of your way to get high, or making this one exception to smoking heavily during a time you swore you'd be sober. Just be smart. Stealing from her grandmother, taking up prostitution, hooking up with a guy who beats her up continually and putting her daughter in harm's way. I've had several friends duck up their lives, but none as quickly as this girl did. I was in a band with a friend of mine and we had a weekend tour booked and he quit his job for it. The tour was only 4 days, and he acted like he was gonna get famous off of it and wouldn't need a job anymore. I guess it wasn't that quick, but his like kind of spiraled downward after that. It took him 2 more years before he got another job, and that was only because he had a kid and needed to. Then 2 years later, present, and he's living in his car because his girlfriend left him because he lost his job and got hooked on pills. Friend in HS. Fell in love with a girl I told him was toxic. Specifically I said you're gonna duck up, get her pregnant and end up in the military. We lost touch after HS. Heard through the grapevine he made it through a year of college. She got pregnant, he joined the Marines and had to put college on hold. Last I heard they've been divorced 2x. She spent his first deployment sleeping through the base and his second sleeping through the neighborhood. One of my high school friends was 2 days away from graduating early and skipping the second half of senior year. But then, a guy who'd been bullying him for years started a fight with him. My friend snapped, stabbed this guy in the back with a knife, and then decided to turn himself into the school administration. He admitted he panicked, and thought it would have been worse for him if it got reported. Guy who started the fight got off completely free of charges. And my friend got a felony on his record and 18 months plus in prison. Not to mention the years of probation and thousands of dollars of fees, with additional fees for not being able to pay them off. I'm not saying what he did was right, but I am saying that school administration completely dropped the ball on this for years, overlooking countless hostile acts rather than actually dealing with the problem. It's not completely shocking though, considering our school expected you to let yourself get the it kicked out of you, or run. Explaining that one to the relatives who called me later on that night asking wasn't he your friend was a lot of fun. Not a friend but my twin brother. We are both 22. He has a baby on the way and he doesn't have a high paying job and hasn't accomplished his educational goals he has set yet, not to mention his baby mama girlfriend is giving him hell and she is awfully childish, a drama queen and materialistic. She displays their relationship issues out on Facebook on the daily. It's a shame, cause him and I promised we would stay focused and help each other accomplish our goals. But ever since he hooked up with her, he stopped contacting me, becoming estranged. His life is gonna be so much harder now. But I guess I'm on this journey alone.